Hello and welcome to Snack Breaks, the New Whovian, a podcast in which I, Bendigo Blue, aka the New Whovian, discuss all the latest episodes of the hit sci-fi show. And wow, still processing everything that happened. For those unaware, the reality war, the grand finale of Doctor Who Season 2, second season of Ncuti Gatwa's era of the show, just dropped yesterday. I was lucky enough to be able to go see it in the cinema, and although it wasn't as packed as the showing I went to last year, it was certainly a really great experience. Now, this episode, if you haven't already guessed, contains a whole bunch of spoilers. We're going to be talking about the big thing, not all the big things, the big thing, specifically the one that comes at a certain point in the episode, which it's one end of the episode is all I'll say. So if you haven't watched the episode already and you do intend on seeing it, then please don't listen to this podcast. Maybe leave a like because we warned you. But anyway, without further ado, let's jump into... Spoiler people, are you all gone? Yep, sounds good. Let's jump into my thoughts on Ncuti Gatwa 15th Doctor's Regeneration. This episode is going to be covering, as I just alluded to there, solely Ncuti Gatwa's regeneration into possibly the 16th Doctor. It's really quite a confusing situation. We will not be discussing any of the other stuff that happened in Doctor Who, The Reality War. My review for that will be hopefully releasing later this week. I've already recorded half of that. Half of it was recorded almost instantly after I got home from the cinema, so that's going to be a fun little ramble to hopefully enjoy, if that's the right word, at some stage. So, the regeneration. So, Ncuti Gatwa's regeneration begins with, a line I have to say I'm not amazingly happy with. He says, and perhaps I misheard him, because this really does surprise me, but he says, I never really liked this face anyway. And I wondered if that was him maybe just something to do with the bi-generation, which we didn't get a fully satisfying answer towards. I thought we'd get more, actually. But anywho, that's beside the point. Whether that's maybe something to do with bi-generation, or really just the fact that he knows he's sort of grieving the fact that he's going to have to sacrifice this iteration of himself in order to possibly allow Poppy back into existence. I believe he says that before he has to bring Poppy back to life, or back into existence, I should say. So I wondered if that was just connected to that, but anyway, that's a very minor detail, but not one I have to say I was particularly pleased with. Anyway, we go onwards, and the Doctor goes off in his TARDIS, and after he's spoken to Jude Whittaker's 13th Doctor a while ago at this point, which, again, not part of the regeneration. We're not discussing that. And I have to say, before we get into my thoughts on whether it was right that he regenerated, I have to say, this is a really good regeneration scene, in my opinion. The fact that, and I think it would almost convince me that if I was trying to get somebody into Doctor Who, especially given that this is the newest Doctor Who, I think this really wraps up what I would be very happy to recommend to a friend as a wonderful microcosm of great episodes of Doctor Who. They haven't all been great, that is for sure. Space Babies probably would be my least favourite in their Interstellar Song Contest. Despite being a massive Eurovision fan, it would be probably ranked pretty low for me. Anyway, we've got a ranking video coming at some stage. But the point is, I think this regeneration really manages to wrap up Ncuti's era in a really incredible way. And one of the ways they do that is that Ncuti's standing in the TARDIS about to regenerate. We've already got a little glimpse of that regeneration energy, and we know by this point, he's committing. He says, I don't want to do this alone. And in a finale that has already, in my opinion, really expertly wrapped up the stories of Ruby, of Belinda, of Anita, we also get a Joy to the World mention. And it's not the first time, because that episode does have a lot of stuff, but specifically the reference to Joy and saying, I don't want to do this alone, and walking out and looking at that star, I just found to be, personally, a really moving moment as somebody who has really engaged with this era of the show. So, yeah, I really like that element, and the fact that he does step onto the TARDIS and shout joy to the world. And I felt that really linked in really well with the idea that 13 suggested to 15, which is don't go out in fear, go out with that lovely smile of yours. And I think that is just such a nice testament to 15 as a doctor and the sort of stuff he has championed and the type of doctor he has been. So anyway, then we have our great, brilliant burst of light, and it's certainly a bit of a change on the regeneration side of things. A really good regeneration, I would say. Whether or not I agree with whether it was the right move for the show, it's a very good-looking regeneration in space. He doesn't fall into space somehow, but we're just going to have to accept that. And the kilt that we don't see loads of, the shooty kilt somehow manages to re-emerge in this episode, particularly as a real defining costume for 15, although I don't think it'll be the costume he goes down sort of in memory with. They somehow managed to bring this back, and it does work really well in the spacey, glorious regeneration scene. Really like that. And then Shooty regenerates into none other. I can't believe I'm saying this. He regenerates into none other than Billy Piper. Yes, Billy Piper. Billy Piper, who famously played possibly one of the most popular, if not the most popular, New Who companion, Rose Tyler, in 2005 onwards, really, till the end of Tennant's era. She hasn't been seen in the show since the end of Tennant's era, and a few years ago, granted, there were rumours that the next Doctor is going to be a female Doctor. It's going to be not Jodie Piper. It's going to be Billy Piper, and everybody thought, what is she smoking? What? No, there's no way that's going to happen. Billy has already had I say that like I know her. Billy Piper has already had such an integral part in the show. Why on earth would anyone decide to do that? And lo and behold, that seems to be what happens. Anyway, I was beyond excited when this appeared in the cinema, basically for half an hour afterwards as I was falling out of the cinema, staggering out. I was just repeating to myself, Billy Piper's the Doctor. Billy Piper's the Doctor. Billy Piper's the Doctor. I really could not believe it. And I still can't now. And I have to say, for about an hour or so, one glorious hour after watching this episode, I was in a really optimistic, hyped up state about the show. I had confidence in its future. I knew, yes, Billy Piper will want to commit, even if we end up taking a break with the War Between the Land and the Sea, which we obviously just got the trailer for, and which is more just, wow, so much stuff to process. Even if we take a break for a bit and the show doesn't come back till 2027, we're hopefully going into a committed future for the show, and I was just beyond excited with all the discussion about Shooty's Doctor, and I really love Shooty's Doctor, but ultimately there has been so much discussion about, well, how long is Shooty going to stay for, even from the original announcement of Shooty as a Doctor, even before he appeared in the show. People were saying, is he only going to stay for 2 seasons? And ultimately that has become true. So 24 hours later, not quite 24 hours later, but 24 hours later, probably by the time this releases, how do I feel? Well, I have been looking at the internet. I no longer feel reassured. So, I'm going to show both sides of my thought process here. On the one hand, I am really sad that 15 is leaving. 15 has ultimately been the Doctor. I suppose it was 14 and I started with 14. Well, I started with 13, didn't watch much of 13, and then I probably got into Doctor Who with watching 14, and then that by generation into 15, and 15 has been the Doctor that's got me into the show. And I think that's, alongside 10, I went back and binged Tennant. So certainly 15 and Tennant are going to end up being those are the Doctors that got me into this show. And so that's always going to have a certain personal connection to it. But also just the joy of this Doctor has been something so wonderful, and just the fun that's been injected into a lot of the stories, and the fact that even though we didn't get many stories, so many of them, in my opinion, have been so good. And yeah, at the same time though, I really do feel as though we are only getting to know Ncuti's Doctor. And as much as Ncuti's performance was absolutely amazing in season 1, season 2 has only seen yet more highlights for him. We're beginning to get to a bit more character exploration in some of the later episodes of the season. And I think the fact that that has sort of been ripped away, admittedly, I presume, by Ncuti Gatwa's own choice, but yeah, is admittedly, for such a fan of this Doctor, is admittedly a very disappointing thing. Additionally, I do feel slightly frustrated that this was sold to us as this brand new era of the show. Ncuti was going to, and it's not the first time this has happened. Christopher Eccleston did lead after one season, but had more episodes in that one season than you would in one season of Doctor Who now. And I think the fact that this was sold to us after sort of drawing people back in with 14 and Tennant and Tate, this is going to be the brave new era of the show. They literally made it as a brand new show on iPlayer. It's separate from, this is the third iteration of this TV show. And I think the fact that Ncuti's left seemingly so soon is, yeah, there is an element certainly of disappointment there for me. I do feel as well with Billie Piper coming in, you know, is this a new era, or how are we doing our second new era? What's happening here? And that leads me onto Billie Piper's regeneration. So initially, as I said, this is great. Billie Piper, I had watched a video by, is it Dalek Force, I believe, who made the video. I watched that the night before, suggesting that Billie Piper was going to be the Doctor, and I thought, wow, I'd love that. That'd be crazy, but I'd love it. And so I was so pleased when I saw Billie Piper was going to be playing the Doctor. But then I went on Reddit, as you do. And people were saying, well, they're probably just going to bring her back for a few specials. Interestingly, they don't introduce Billie Piper as the Doctor in the credits. It says Ncuti Gatwa is the Doctor, Jodie Whittaker is the Doctor, and introducing Billie Piper. Really interesting, I think. They're whether trying to get us to talk and just trying to get as much media coverage as they can. I don't know. It's certainly a very interesting one. And what I'm now, some people are suggesting that Ncuti's Doctor is only going to stay, not Ncuti's Gatwa. Some people are suggesting now that Billie's Doctor is only going to stay. It might not even be the full iteration of 16, and if they are, might do a few specials, maybe just one special. Realistically, I think it's more likely to be a 60th anniversary type 3 specials, and then regenerate into 17, or bigenerate, maybe. I hope that's not the case, but regenerate into 17. And I think that theory, as much as I think it could be true, so no hate to anybody who had that theory at all, I think it's a very good theory, but it's not one that I particularly love, because one of the reasons I was so excited about Billie Piper being this Doctor wasn't just the idea that, oh, Billie Piper's going to be dedicated to the show, she's going to be in it. And I'm not saying Ncuti wasn't, it's just Billie might have more time to be in the show. Ncuti's obviously an up-and-coming Hollywood star. It was that sense of reassurance for the show's future, but I'm beginning to not feel that so much, particularly with the idea of actually this might just be another Tennant-type stunt, if you will. And I don't want to call that a stunt, because those were 3 great episodes, and they did it for the 60th, and they were great. But yeah, I really just hope that that is not the case, and that we will have an air of consistency going in. Sure, it will be weird going in with the Billie Piper being such an integral face of New Who, coming in as the 16th Doctor. That would be weird to establish initially, but I think I have no doubt that Billie Piper could really pull off the role, and I just hope they're given that opportunity to. I really, really hope so. So, there you go. Those are my rambly thoughts on Doctor Who, The Reality Wars, big regeneration scene. So, in summary, you're too long, didn't listen. TLDL. There you go. Hey. It is that My too long didn't listen is that essentially, my too long didn't listen is that I am very sad to see Shuti leaving the show. As much as it was his decision, the fact that he was unable to fully flesh out, in my opinion, his time as the Doctor, although he's left a great era that I actually feel, although with the Sutek and Omega and the Rani issues, which I'll talk about in my full review of the Reality War, the fact that Russell was able to wrap up his era so well is a good thing, although I still don't feel we got enough time with this Doctor. As for Billie Piper, I am excited beyond belief to see her returning to the show. However, exclusively on the condition, if you will, that we are getting this as a consistent forthgoing Doctor, as opposed to here's another special, here's a new era of the show again, sort of. Yeah, here's 17 and off we go again into what feels like it could be a bit of a repetitive spiral. And again, I know it's the Whovian fear, but does that only lead us closer to cancellation? I don't want to be that guy suggesting that. I don't want to be that guy. I want to be a force of positivity for the show, and I am excited for its future. Just a bit, bit cautious at the moment. So those are my rambly thoughts on the Regeneration scene. I have been Bendigo Blue. This has been a Hungry Cat Bar production, our Snack Break podcast, The New Whovian. Thank you very much for listening. See you soon. Stay safe. Bye.